What if I told you the reason you feel overwhelmed has nothing to do with your to-do list? You're not behind, you are just underbranded. No strategy, no tactics, no VA, no hack is going to fix it. Because if your brand is speaking in the wrong rooms, you'll always feel stuck. And in the next few minutes, I'll show you why your brilliance isn't broken. It's just being mismatched to your message. Let's be very, very real. Most powerhouse women and service providers aren't held back by lack of hustle or capability. No, they're held back by perception power, how the world sees their brilliance. And if your brand doesn't whisper exclusivity before you even speak, you're blending into a crowded noise you were meant to rise above. And that gap is between your genius and how it's perceived. And that's where overwhelm sets in. This is the brand extraordinary shift. It's where you go from being not stuck because you're incapable. You're stuck because your brand is speaking in those wrong rooms. And I can't iterate that enough, because your next level doesn't come from more tactics. It comes from alignment. And the moment your brand matches the caliber of your results is the moment that everything will start to finally click. So, if you want to break out of your metaphorical busy box and truly own your premium space, let's walk through these 3 pivotal shifts. 1, we need to speak to who sees you as elite. There's a big difference between you perceiving yourself as elite and those who see you as elite. Then 2, we're going to design to feel like it's a container for their next level transformation. We can't just compare ourselves to every single apple out there in the grocery store. We have to be something different. And then 3, we're going to position to attract clients who already believe in your pricing. That is what champagne clientele is, or clients who already believe in your pricing. So stay with me and I'll unpack each, share real world examples, and show you how to implement starting them today. So let's dive quickly first into our first one, which is speak to elite rooms. A lot of times I watch women, and I see this all the time. They start to just shrink and shrink and shrink and shrink. And when they shrink, what they start using is very generalist language. They don't stand in their power in their copy on their websites. They don't stand in their power in the copy on their LinkedIn post or Instagram. And honestly, it all sounds the same. It all sounds the same. And I see this because I do a lot of Brandmuda brand breakthroughs. They're video audits that I do for clients where they submit a form and I go in and I will look at their digital presence. I get on a Loom video and I just go through and audit it. And I've read a lot of websites doing these Brandmuda brand breakthroughs. And what I see is them leaking dream dollars just simply because they choose to soften their tone, soften their message, and not stand in what they truly believe in. And then when they share what their goals are with me and I read what they wrote, there's a huge disconnect, and that perception gap starts to exist. And so when I'm doing these Brandmuda brand breakthroughs, that is the number one thing that I call out to all women, because they're not speaking to the people that they want to speak to, because their words are just basic and general, and they're not moving the needle forward and making their audience feel something. And that's super important. The next thing is we want to design as a container for transformation. Same thing with using generalist words. We cannot make anybody see or feel the transformation on what's on the other side for them. And so one of the analogies that I use a lot of times when I'm trying to teach transformation to my clients, whether we are working in a Making Waves intensive where I implement their strategy in 1 to 2 business days, or I am just teaching for some of my coaching clients, the thing that I like to explain, and I can't find something to draw it on right now, but I'm going to paint the picture for you, is your client is on one end of the bridge and you are on the other. And that bridge is over a giant river of fear. Okay. Giant river of fear. And on your side of the river, you're like, hey, it's a party over here. It's great. You're going to love it. You're going to make so much more money. You're going to be able to do all these things. And they're over there. They don't see the bridge. They're not looking up to be like, oh, there's a bridge. I can just cross it. They're looking down, and they're looking down at this water. And in that water, in that river of fear, are sharks. There are sharks. There's like some kind of sea monster, and they can see you waving me like, come over here. It's great. It's like wonderful. You should come, just like come over here. It's so much better than over there. And all they see are these sharks in the water, these sea monsters, and they see you waving, and they are like, but I don't understand. Did you swim? I don't want to get in there. I'm going to get eaten. And so you have to help them look up, and you have to help them get over the bridge, and you have to build that bridge in your brand message, but also in the sales system that you create that gets them from point A to point B. Bro marketing will tell you need to build a funnel, but it's more than a funnel. A funnel is just a series of steps to get from one thing to the other to your bank account. But when we're talking about creating a sales system that builds transformation, we're talking about taking them on a journey over that bridge to get them to what it is that they truly desire. And you've got to be able to build that in order to make your brand messaging work, your sales convert super seamlessly, as well as really be able to speak to that core person that we talked about when we were talking about speaking to elite rooms. And then lastly, the next thing that you need to do is you need to price with perception in mind. One of my favorite quotes, I actually have it here in a notebook that is a lot easier to read it out loud to you. When it comes to price, and I work with so many women, and with these women, the thing I hear all the time is, oh, that's like super expensive, or I could never charge that. And they're always undercharging, forever undercharging, to be honest with you. One of the greatest things, before I read this quote, I recently was coaching one of my coaching clients, and in that space, she is a private investigator, works with law firms, so private law firms, and she was charging $100 for a background check, and still giving them a strategy and ways that they could go through and build these cases and investigations. And I happen to live with an attorney, and I know for a fact they pay way more than that. And I looked at her and I go, why are we charging $100? And she goes, oh, well, I just want somebody to buy it. And I was like, okay, well, your audience, the ones you want to buy from you, wouldn't see value in that. They would question why that was so cheap. So that day we added a zero to that 100. She now charges $1,000 for her background checks, along with a mini strategy in order on how to take the investigation forward in the timeline that they provide. And then her next piece of that upsells to 10K. So it's really important that we're aware of the price that we create with perception in mind, because certain audiences are going to not want to spend so little because they won't trust the quality. Some audiences only have a little to spend. It's what's expensive to them and what is going to be champagne clientele for you. So the thing I want to leave you with as it pertains to pricing and creating this pricing that not only gets you to the freedom that you desire and deserve, but pricing that's going to make you feel good and help eliminate that sense of overwhelm. And that quote is, price is only expensive when the solution to the problem can be compared to something else. I love it so much. It's literally the only thing written on this page. And I look at that often because when we talk about price being expensive when it's only compared to something, it's because you, as the person who has a brand, hasn't shown them that the cost of not doing it with you is actually what's more expensive. So we want to look and create a system, a brand that feels premium, that your pricing can really speak to the transformation that they will receive and the elite rooms where your ideal audience is. That this doesn't mean it has to be high ticket. And I just want to be very clear. It doesn't have to be high ticket, but it needs to speak to an audience that is going to love and appreciate that price and see the value within that, because it is going to be your client that dictates the value itself. So If these points resonated with you, if you're like, oh my gosh, how do I start to create that feeling and make these things happen? You don't need another course. What you need to do is you need to get the Brandmuda Brand Breakthrough, the first step in my process, where it's all about you, but it is a video audit that is going to share with you where you are leaking dream dollars currently in your website and any other place that you have digital presence. That is going to fully allow you to start to see the shifts that you need to make so you too can have champagne clientele and start to live the life that you want, as well as create the impact that you know that you were destined to make. Because at the end of the day, you did not start this brand to feel a sense of overwhelm. You started it to be able to gain the freedom from something that you no longer wanted to or no longer needs to exist in your version of today's world. So go ahead. I will link all the things that we talked about in the description below, especially that Brandmuda Brand Breakthrough. And if you are ready to fully own your place at the premium table, hit the subscribe, drop a comment on which shift hit home the most, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.